Imagine you're chewing on a bone so fiercely that your mouth actually starts to bleed.
Oh, wow.
Right.
Yeah.
But instead of stopping, you taste the blood and you think to yourself, man, this is the most incredible meal I have ever had.
It sounds completely insane, honestly.
It does. You would look at an animal doing that and just think, well, it has completely lost its mind.
Right. I mean, you'd try to take the bone away.
Exactly. But according to an ancient, really profound spiritual text, you and I do the exact same thing every single day of our lives.
We do. We totally do. We just exhaust ourselves extracting joy from things that are completely empty,
Right.
Just bleeding ourselves dry while giving all the credit to the bone.
Welcome to this deep dive. Today, we are bringing you a fascinating exploration of a concept that, honestly, it turns our standard ideas of success, goal setting, and even our most basic daily struggles completely upside down.
Yeah, it really shifts the whole paradigm.
It does. We're analyzing translated excerpts and transcriptions from a text called the Jiva Yatra, which translates to the journey of the soul. Specifically, we're focusing on the teachings of verse 4, as unpacked by the scholar Swami Paramarthananda.
Which is such a rich source.
So rich. And the mission today is to give you, the listener, a shortcut to being well-informed about the true nature of your stress, the illusion of what you think you lack, and the surprising actual source of your joy. So, okay, let's unpack this.
To start, I think we have to look at how we typically define spiritual growth or personal development.
Right, the self-help treadmill.
Exactly. Whenever we hear a word like yatra, a journey, we're so conditioned by our physical reality to imagine a timeline.
Yeah, moving from point A to point B.
Right, we think of packing bags. Even in spiritual context, people imagine traveling to a Svargaloka, a heaven, or eventually arriving at some elevated, enlightened future state after just years and years of hard work.
Because the human ego loves a project.
Oh, it really does.
We love the idea of packing our metaphorical bags, tracking our progress, and eventually arriving somewhere better than where we are right now.
But the core message of verse 4 completely shatters that assumption.
How so?
Well, this text clarifies that the journey of the soul is not a physical one, and it's not a temporal one either. It is strictly a cognitive journey.
A cognitive journey.
Yeah. The ultimate goal, which the text calls moksha, or liberation, is not a place you go to. The distance between you and that liberation is not measured in miles or years.
Then what is the distance?
The distance is purely ignorance.
Wait, I have to challenge this right out of the gate.
Sure, go for it.
If I'm not actually traveling anywhere, why am I so exhausted? I mean, why does life feel like I am constantly climbing a mountain carrying this heavy backpack of responsibilities if there's no physical or temporal distance to cover?
That is such a fair question. And that exhaustion you feel, it's incredibly real, but we misattribute the cause.
Okay, so where is it coming from then?
The fatigue doesn't come from traveling towards a destination. It comes from the massive psychological friction of maintaining a false identity.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. The text explains that the ultimate destination we are all seeking is Nityananda, which translates to permanent, unmixed joy.
Permanent joy. I mean, every human being wants a happiness that doesn't have an expiration date.
Right. Nobody wants a joy that comes with that looming, anxious dread that it's going to end by Monday morning.
The Sunday scaries.
Exactly. Now, here is the profound cognitive shift the text demands. That permanent joy, that Nityananda, is actually your intrinsic nature.
Is who I already am.
Yes. It is the core substance of who you already are. You don't need a vehicle or a timeline to reach your own core substance.
So the exhaustion.
The exhaustion comes from the constant, desperate attempt to acquire things to feel complete when you are already the completeness you're seeking. You are shedding layers of misunderstanding, not racking up frequent flyer miles.
Okay, but if we are already sitting on the finish line, how is it humanly possible that we don't know it?
It sounds impossible, right?
Yeah. How do you lose something that is literally what you are?
That is the central paradox the text addresses. And to understand how the human mind can fabricate this illusion of loss, Swami Paramarthananda introduces a classic teaching story about the mechanics of human attention.
I love how these ancient texts use stories to explain psychology. What's the story?
It's called The 10th Man.
Okay, lay it on me.
Imagine a group of 10 men who have just crossed a really dangerous, fast-flowing river.
So stressful.
Very. They reach the other side, and the leader of the group wants to ensure everyone survived the crossing. So he lines them up and begins counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and he stops.
He only counts 9.
Exactly.
Because his attention is entirely focused outward. He's counting everyone else and completely forgets to turn the finger around and count himself.
Right. And look at the psychological result of that simple outward focus. Panic sets in instantly. The group begins to grieve. They are weeping for the lost 10th man. The sorrow they are experiencing is 100% real. Their nervous systems are in distress. Their tears are real.
It's the ultimate blind spot. It actually reminds me of that feeling when you are frantically tearing your house apart, sweating, panicking because you can't find your favorite necklace.
Oh, yes. I've been there.
You're tossing couch cushions, convinced it's gone forever. And then someone walks into the room and points out that the necklace is already clasped around your neck.
Exactly.
The panic was entirely real, but the loss was completely fabricated.
That is a perfect parallel. And the text pairs this concept with another vivid image, which is the Hiranyanidhi, or the hidden treasure.
Hidden treasure, okay.
Imagine a beggar who lives in absolute crushing poverty. Every single day, he sits in the exact same spot on the dirt, begging for pennies, feeling utterly miserable and incomplete.
Just scraping by.
Right. But what he cannot see is that a massive, priceless treasure is buried just inches beneath the very dirt he's sitting on.
Wow. So what does this all mean for you, the listener? I mean, it means we are waking up every day acting exactly like that beggar.
We really are.
We go through life chasing a new job title, chasing a better bank balance, chasing the perfect relationship, just trying to scrape together these little external pennies so we can finally feel complete.
Yeah.
And we have absolutely no idea that the completeness we are begging for is buried right under our own feet.
And it is concealed by what the text calls mala and vikshipa.
What are those?
They're impurities, things like our endless desires and aversions and the constant distracted wandering of our minds.
So the mental noise.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Those mental layers act like the packed dirt covering the treasure. Because our minds are so agitated, so focused outward like the man counting the other 9 men, we simply cannot perceive what is directly beneath us.
But if the treasure is just hidden by dirt, by our own ignorance and misconception, we don't need to physically travel to a new continent to find it.
Right.
We just need the right kind of illumination to see what's already there.
Which brings us to the actual mechanism of how this knowledge changes us. The sources use one of the most famous analogies in Eastern philosophy for this.
Oh, the rope and the light, right.
Yes. This explains the precise psychology of human suffering.
Set the scene for us. How does this work?
Okay, imagine you are walking down a path at dusk. The lighting is very poor. It's creating shadows everywhere.
Very spooky.
Yeah. Suddenly, you look down at the path ahead and you see what looks exactly like a venomous snake coiled up, ready to strike.
My heart rate would spike instantly. Cortisol floods the system.
Absolute panic. Your fight or flight response kicks in. You might freeze. You might start backing away slowly. You are experiencing intense suffering and fear.
Right.
In the text, this projection of the mind is called adhysa, a false misconception. You have taken a neutral object and overlaid it with your own terror.
Because the darkness, the ignorance of the environment is preventing me from seeing the true nature of what is actually on the ground.
Exactly. And what's fascinating here is what happens the exact second you pull out a flashlight and turn it on.
What happens?
The beam of light hits the object, and you realize it is just a piece of coiled rope. The light does 2 distinct critical things simultaneously. First, it uncovers the true nature of the object. It reveals the harmless reality of the rope.
And second?
Second, it instantly negates the false misconception. The snake vanishes.
And this is gone.
Poof! And the moment the snake vanishes, all the physical and psychological suffering you were experiencing, the elevated heart rate, the sweating, the terror, it all evaporates with it.
Because there was no snake.
Right. The flashlight didn't have to kill a snake because there was never a snake to begin with.
It's exactly like waking up from a nightmare where you're falling. You know that terrifying visceral jolt?
Oh, I hate that feeling.
Your body fully believes it is plummeting, but when your eyes snap open, the bed didn't suddenly materialize out of thin air to catch you.
No, it was always there.
The light of waking up just revealed that you were never actually falling in the first place. The knowledge of being awake doesn't manufacture a safety net. It just collapses the false architecture of the nightmare.
That captures the mechanism perfectly. In the context of the jiva yatra, the light of knowledge reveals your true nature, that intrinsic permanent joy, and simultaneously destroys the misconception that you are a limited, lacking, vulnerable individual.
Okay, let's push this a step further.
Sure.
If we turn that flashlight on, if we gain this profound knowledge about ourselves, what does it reveal about the actual physical world we interact with every single day?
That is the million-dollar question.
Because my laptop, my house, my physical body, they feel incredibly solid. They do not feel like a nightmare I can just wake up from.
And this is where the text introduces a radical view of physics and reality. It breaks down the relationship between cause and effect, forcing us to look at substance versus appearance.
Okay, break that down for me.
According to the text, consciousness, the self, the observer, is the absolute only actual substance in existence. That is called satyam, the absolute independent truth.
So if consciousness is the only substance, what is everything else?
Everything else, the entire physical world, our bodies, our passing thoughts, are dependent products.
Dependent.
Yeah. They are made of names and forms, which the text refers to as nama-rupa or mithya. Mithya means they have a dependent reality. They appear real, but they have no independent substance of their own.
Can you ground that in an example?
Yeah.
How can something appear real but have no substance?
Swami Paramarthananda uses the gold analogy to illustrate this. Think about a jewelry store display.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
You see a gold bangle, a gold ring, and a gold chain. They all look completely different. They have different names, different shapes, and different functions.
But they are all just the exact same gold, temporarily holding different shapes.
Precisely. The bangle is just a name and a form, a namarupa, resting on the actual substance, which is gold.
I see.
If you take that bangle and throw it into a blazing crucible, it melts. The bangle dies. The form is completely destroyed. But the gold itself remains entirely unaffected.
The gold is fine.
The gold doesn't care if it's shaped like a bangle or a ring. The bangle was completely dependent on the gold to exist, but the gold is independent of the bangle.
That makes total sense. So the form is just a temporary boundary.
Yes.
It's like blowing up a balloon. The air inside the balloon suddenly seems like it's a separate, isolated thing from the air in the rest of the room.
Yeah.
It has a shape, a boundary.
Right.
But if you take a pin and pop the balloon, the air inside doesn't have to pack its bags and travel across the room to rejoin the total space.
Exactly.
It was always part of the total space. The balloon was just a temporary shape.
That is a brilliant modernization of another classic analogy from the sources, actually, the pot space.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the text uses a clay pot containing space, but the mechanism is identical to your balloon. The space inside never actually separates from the total space. The boundary is purely a temporary form.
Think about how liberating this is for you listening right now. If your core consciousness is the gold or the air, and your daily stresses, your changing job titles, even your physical aging, are just the bangles and the balloons,
Then your core self is completely independent.
it is unharmed by the changing shapes of your life. When a highly stressful phase of life ends, the bangle melts. But the gold, the true you, is perfectly permanently fine.
It allows you to engage with the forms of the world without being destroyed when those forms inevitably change or break.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, though. I have to push back hard on this on behalf of everyone listening.
I'm ready.
If the external world is just names and forms, if it's all just dependent mithya without any real independent substance, then why does it feel so good? Why does eating a massive slice of your favorite pizza or getting a promotion at work feel so incredibly joyful? If the world is just empty shapes, where is that intense joy coming from?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this is arguably the most profound psychological insight in the entire text. To answer your question about where the joy comes from, Swami Paramarthananda delivers the visceral analogy we hinted at in the very beginning, the dog and the bone.
The dog with the bleeding mouth.
Yeah.
Walk us through the actual mechanics of that.
Okay, so imagine a street dog wandering around, and it finds an old bone on the ground. This bone has been baking in the sun for weeks. There is no meat on it. There is no marrow left. It is completely, utterly dry.
Just a rock, basically.
Right. But the dog is thrilled. It picks up the bone and starts gnawing on it with incredible enthusiasm.
But because it's so dry and jagged, it starts cutting into the dog's gums.
Yes. The sharp edges slice the dog's mouth and it starts to bleed. As the dog continues to chew fiercely, it tastes its own blood.
Oh, man.
And the dog happily thinks to itself, wow, this bone is absolutely delicious.
It has no idea.
It is completely unaware that the bone itself provided zero nourishment and zero flavor. The dog is literally drinking its own blood, experiencing its own essence, but attributing all the sweetness to the dry bone.
That is such a haunting image. I mean, the dog is the source of the flavor, but the bone gets the credit.
The text follows it up with a gentler analogy to drive the psychology home. The baby's thumb.
Okay, a little less graphic.
A little less, yeah. Imagine a baby that has just been weaned. The baby is craving its mother's milk. In its desire, it pops its thumb into its mouth and starts sucking vigorously.
But obviously, no milk is coming out of the thumb.
Exactly. But the action stimulates the baby's own salivary glands. The baby swallows its own saliva, feels satisfied, and happily thinks the thumb is providing the nourishment.
So the promotion, the new car, the pizza, they are the dry bone, they are the thumb.
We are the dog and we are the baby.
Wow.
Think about the exact psychological mechanism of getting what you want. Let's say you've been agonizing over a massive promotion for 6 months.
Very stressful.
Your mind is in a state of high agitation. Desire creates a profound internal friction. You feel lacking. You feel incomplete.
Right, the mind is constantly churning, saying, I need this to be happy.
The moment you get the phone call saying the job is yours, what actually happens in your brain? The grasping mechanism shuts down. The friction stops.
You relax.
You don't suddenly gain a new substance called joy from the telephone receiver. Instead, your mind temporarily stops desiring. It becomes perfectly quiet and still.
Like a lake when the wind finally stops blowing.
Yes. Beautifully said. And in that perfectly quiet, still mirror of the mind, your own innate, permanent joy, that Nityananda we talked about at the start, reflects back at you. You taste your own sweetness.
So the promotion didn't actually generate the joy. The external object just momentarily stopped me from blocking my own joy.
Exactly.
It temporarily cured the agitation. But like the dog, I give all the credit to the bone. I think the promotion made me happy.
Which sets up the tragic cycle of human life, because the promotion eventually becomes the new normal.
Right, you get used to it.
The mind starts to agitate again, looking for the next bone to chew on, completely forgetting that it is the source of the flavor.
That is a massive paradigm shift. We spend our entire lives believing that joy is a scarce commodity that we have to physically extract from the world.
We really do.
We think, if I just manipulate my environment enough, if I get the right partner, the right house, the right status, then I will be extracting enough joy to finally be happy.
But the world is completely empty of joy. The world is just a collection of dry bones and empty thumbs. We are the source of the sweetness.
So every time you have ever felt a moment of pure, unadulterated joy, you are simply experiencing a reflection of your own true nature.
Exactly.
The objects of the world just occasionally act as a mirror when they manage to temporarily quiet our restless, anxious minds.
So bringing this all together, the journey of the soul, this jiva yatra, isn't a trek across the universe to find a glowing, magical orb of happiness.
It's the realization that there's nowhere to go.
Right. When the flashlight of knowledge is turned on, the false snake of our constant lacking disappears.
You realize that you are the hidden treasure you've been begging for.
Yeah.
You are the gold that remains perfectly unharmed, no matter how the balloons and bangles of your daily life pop or melt. And most importantly, you are the actual source of every single drop of joy you have ever felt in your entire life.
Understanding this completely reframes our relationship with reality. We can still interact with the world. We can still enjoy the pizza, strive for the promotion, and love our families.
But we stop holding the world hostage.
Yes, we stop demanding that external objects provide us with a permanent joy they simply do not possess.
Because we know we already have it. We started this deep dive talking about the sheer exhaustion of packing for a massive trip, carrying the heavy luggage of thinking we have to cover all this distance to finally be happy. But what if you just unpacked?
Yeah.
What if you realized you never had to leave the room?
That is what the text means by liberation.
As you go about your day-to-day, we want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. We've talked a lot about the mind projecting snakes and chewing on dry bones.
A lot of imagery today.
So today, try this. The next time you find yourself with 5 minutes of absolute silence, no phone in your hand, no immediate tasks, just watch what your mind does.
Observe it.
Observe how quickly, how desperately your brain tries to invent a new snake. Notice how it will dig up an old argument or invent a hypothetical anxiety about next week just to have something to chew on.
It's addicted to the friction.
Ask yourself, why is my mind so utterly terrified of simply sitting still with a treasure? What would actually happen if, just for today, you refused to create the snake?